Hi everyone. I decided to do a video today. I know it's been a while and a lot of people have been asking, is everything okay? When's the next video? And it really isn't because I haven't had the interest, obviously. It's really because there's so much to say, and if I really said everything I wanted to say, it would just be this incredibly long video, and I know that isn't going to be good. I know everybody is at different stages of awareness about what's been going on, or where they feel they've been affected, and at different stages as far as the research that they've done into this. And there's just a lot of different areas to check out and make sense of, or see if for you they fit together, and decide what you think. But I know, and actually I guess that's why I'm doing this video today. I have no idea how long it's going to be. It's going to be pretty jumbled. Don't really have my thoughts together. But a lot of people have made comments on my videos, which I am really grateful for. I know it takes a lot of courage to talk about this publicly, believe me. But I guess I just got to the point where the choice is either keep pretending it's not happening and don't come out publicly, don't look crazy, or try to help somebody else because you know what you're going through, you know what you're seeing, you know what you're sensing, you know what's real for you. And I guess I just don't care anymore, which is not like the old me either. Oh my gosh, I would have rather died than look ridiculous in public, than look stupid, look crazy. And even a teeny bit when I first put out the videos, there was a few comments from the trollers, the other people who have channels, you know what I'm talking about. And it did get to me a little bit at first, but for some reason, I guess as we progress through this, I must be getting back to my normal self, must be toughening up a little bit, because it really doesn't bother me in the least anymore. If I see it's not going to be a good comment, bam, it's gone. Don't give it another thought. So maybe my stubbornness part, which I had before, I'm a really stubborn person. And if I wanted to do something, or if I wanted to learn something or whatever, I honestly thought I had no limitations in the life that I had before this. Like literally, I believed that whatever it was that I wanted to do, no matter how difficult, no matter how much education, no matter how much effort, whatever, I really honestly thought, yeah, well, it's just a choice. I can choose to do this, I can choose to do that, but whatever it is, anybody can do anything. And that's kind of how I lived my life until all of this happened and ripped my reality away. And there's just so much to say. And I know in the first video that I put out, I touched on a lot of things, but still not really as in depth as I could have, because again, really the point of that video wasn't to come out and say, okay, well, look what I'm seeing. This is crazy. Anybody else seeing this? I need help. It's really because the research that I did for the year prior to that, I saw, the waves that I had heard about somewhere that were going to be coming. And I knew when that last wave came in September, and I saw the whole new round of Mandela effects coming up on the videos, I saw, oh my gosh, if any of you remember some of the videos, which I haven't been able to find because I was going to go rip them down and record them again and show bits and pieces. of some of the people who were just in such disbelief and such shock, and just visibly, it was just crazy. It was crazy. I know some of you have seen them, even though I can't find them now. So I knew, really, I guess just helping those people became more important than ego anymore, or looking crazy or whatever. Now I know there's a lot of theories out there, and a lot of people post comments from different camps, the religious camp, and I just want to say about that, because I know I didn't talk about it a lot in the first videos, because again, those were not the focus. I do want you to know that I really do appreciate those comments, but there's really not a need for the religious camps to leave the page-long comments about, calling out for Christ and asking. We're on the same bus and we're on the same team. This isn't an issue of me being an atheist, or following bad sinner, Satan, whatever. It's really not. And while I didn't get into it in the initial video, if I would have recorded what was going on with me when I first started going through this, you would have seen me screaming and crying to the Creator, begging for just 2 minutes of relief from what I was feeling. It was a really, really difficult time. So, I remember a couple times in the apartment that I was staying at before I went to Tennessee, when, in the midst of all the craziness, when I literally, honestly thought, I can't take one more day of this. I can't even take one more minute of this. There was so much emotional pain in regard to my family, not seeing this, not being supportive, not even caring in the least what I was saying. And I couldn't believe that's not what I had expected from my family. I mean, I always thought, if you were a parent, or you were a spouse, or if you had a parent or a grandparent, and they were coming to you with this incredible story about what's going on, and you can just see them so visibly distraught and crying out to you and begging and just losing it. Say if that was a child that had come to you, and say they came up with some story about, they went for a walk to the park and they were cutting through this path in the forest. All of a sudden they saw a light come down, and, a UFO came and took them up, and they just, whatever the story is, this incredible story. I mean, I really wouldn't have thought, as a parent, the first instinct you would have had is to say, oh, geez, little Johnny or Sarah, we need to get you to the psych ward right away. I would think, as I would be comforting my child. I would want to hear every detail. I would believe my child. And it was just beyond understandable how nobody in my family seemed to, A, take this serious, or B, just even be there in any way, shape, or form with what I was going through. I mean, I really was all alone. I remember a couple times in my apartment when, I really, really thought I'd had it, and I can't take anymore. And I remember walking through my apartment, hour and a half at a time, pacing through from room to room, screaming at God, crying, down on my knees, whatever. So you don't have to put the comments there about this is demon related, you're being attacked by demons. Honestly, like I had kind of made a reference to at the end of the original video, I really don't think those shadow things that I was seeing now, or that I was describing, and that many people are talking about, I'm beginning to think that they're not really that what I was seeing weren't entities or weren't bad things, that perhaps if the case is that timelines are condensing, collapsing, and whatever, that what I was actually seeing is like an overlay or kind of seeing through whatever dimension we were crossing with at the time. You know, and when I look back at a lot of things, that can certainly make sense to me. So, I mean, it could have been my family members on the other side of the wall. It could have been myself on the other side of the wall that I was looking at or sensing. I mean, it could have been a lot of things, but I definitely don't, well, at least I really don't necessarily think that they were bad entities. It's just that everything was very confusing, very scary, especially because I was going through it alone with no, you know, support whatsoever. So it was tough. Now I know the video that I just posted today that had the 2 open survey question, some of the responses that people had contributed to that. You know, I know it's small print and it's not speaking the submissions, so it's really better made for a laptop or TV, but this one I really just couldn't feasibly do to speak the submissions as they come across the screen, so I apologize for that. And, you know, the point of that video isn't to make people sad, even though I know it was tough to make the video, and, you know, reading all the comments over and over kind of feels sad. But really the point is to kind of highlight again that none of us that are going through this are alone. There's a lot of us who are super, super deeply affected. And I know I'm pretty grateful for a lot of channels that are out there that are, you know, put together by people that are just as deeply affected. My favorite one, as a matter of fact, is Mandela Affected. I think he's in the UK. Very smart man. I know he's just as concerned and has this on his mind all the time as I do, and I know a lot of the other channel owners do too, and I can't name them all because there's a lot of them that are just really so good, and I know a lot of us are grateful that they're able to put out a lot of videos and they talk about a lot of things. You know, one of the other reasons I've kind of been hesitant in putting out another video before I get the results, the study results video done and out there. And by the way, the reason that's taking so long is because it captured an awful lot of data. So it's a lot of work to put everything together to even, you know, upload it and do it. I am working again, if you remember, and I'm really trying hard, you know, to be as normal as possible and try to reintegrate as best as possible. But, you know, just like a lot of you, it is pretty tough, you know, on a daily basis. Some days are better than others. When I'm at work, you know, trying to not be thinking about it, and then I'll have somebody who picks up their medication and, you know, they'll have a conversation, how ridiculous and times have changed and this and that. And they'll say something, you know, like, yeah, well, I think it all went to hell, you know, when everybody started sitting around watching TV in the 30s. And I'll have to catch myself again because, you know, TVs were not around for me in the 30s. But, you know, I'll smile and I'll go with it. But it is pretty difficult. For sure. Watched a lot of the Ascension type videos again. I know that, you know, there are a lot of people, not the majority, but there are a lot of people who have come here and have found it to be, you know, a more positive experience, you know, are having really good luck with things and got a new job and lost 40 pounds and a new relationship and things are going great. And I think that's really awesome. I know the majority of us, at least that's not been the case. But I've been really trying to think of, because everything, every discussion, every theory, everything really comes down to the underlying real reason and real truth for all of this that has happened, as to really know kind of what to do with it and where do you go with it. Because if it's the awakening, ascension, it's a lot easier to justify certain things, certain behaviors, certain thoughts. And, I've decided for myself, irregardless, I am going to try to adopt that school of thought and accept this as, a time of awakening, moving into the photon belt, and all this extra energy is going to be, lowering the veil and waking everybody up. And, we can choose to make our reality, based on our thoughts. And if we're dwelling on one thing, that's what's going to happen. If we're dwelling on another, that's what's going to happen. Now, I think that's going to be really important for me because of all the things that I've seen in the sky and the sun, and what I believe about the incoming, Nibiru, Planet X, whatever, because, I see them. And, I really think that maybe the reason why other people don't, in thinking a lot about this, is maybe because they simply are, we are in two different kind of overlapping timelines or realities right now that are going to split off at some point, and I think some point probably, fairly or relatively soon. And maybe that's the reason they really don't see them, or the Mandela changes, or anything else. For them, that is their reality. And for us, maybe we either oscillate between the two. But anyway, I'm going to try to give a good attempt, my best attempt, at trying to adopt another mindset. Now that I'm feeling strong enough, I've got my energy back, I'm feeling much, much, much better. I'm letting go of some of the family issues, out of necessity. I can't stay there because I just don't think that's going to be good for me. And it's not that my family is bad. In fact, one of my daughters, she has always been, and she was born, we always thought, like really to have an absolute literal angel spirit. There's like not a single thread of bad or darkness or anything in her since the day she was born. And she's 21 now. Yeah, I know, it makes me pretty old. Hate that. And she's still the same. She just now got her driver's license. Anyway, my point is she doesn't see any of these things, and it disturbs her to even talk about this, hear about this, be told about this. So, I hadn't talked to her for almost a year, and that was difficult. Her whole life on her own, went to church 3, 4, 5 times a week, volunteers at the church, does deaf child translation. She's not deaf herself. She just took up signing and she loves it. And just everything good. She's just really good. And it worried me for a long time. Okay, well then what does this really mean? I need to think hard. I need to have clarity on this, because what does this mean for me? If I know she was good and she's not seeing anything, I think the answers that we're really all looking for at the end of the day is, do these changes mean we're kind of like the chosen ones who get to see behind the veil and see how reality really is? Because I know that's exactly how we feel. Or, was there some kind of rapture and we got left? Or did we get put here as a second chance and maybe didn't make the first cut? I know a lot of us are thinking the same things. So it bothered me for a long time, that about my daughter. But then just the other day, I finally spent a few hours with her and drove her around and took her for lunch and dropped her off. hadn't brought up anything of my craziness or any examples or whatever, or listened to videos in front of her. But then just before her boyfriend was getting ready to pick her up, I decided to mention that, I had done a few videos and got a lot of views, and, a lot of comments are similar and people in the same situations. And I guess couldn't help myself, but I started talking to her and kind of lost it emotionally for a minute, and I started crying. And she hadn't been saying anything. She was just kind of there looking. And the next thing I know, her phone is buzzing. And she's like, "Oh, can you just hold a minute?" It was her boyfriend. She's like, "Well, he's here, so I got to go." And I'm like, "Okay, well, no problem." And, I had just told her, all these heartfelt things. And she just got up like I had said nothing, and, kind of just walked out the door. And I didn't want to make her feel anything, so I'm just, trying to, yeah, well, it was really good to see you today, and whatever. But that just seems even, a lot of us have been talking about the odd behavior of people that aren't affected. And I'm telling you, you really need to listen to those videos, because it is literally the most confusing part of this whole thing. Even now, even today, any given moment, I don't understand. There's nothing in there. There's like, they just blow off. They change the subject. They don't get what you're saying. They'll act like they get it for a minute, maybe sometimes, and then they'll just, go right off and start doing whatever again. And it's like, really? Okay. Yeah, so I've pretty much given up on trying to get through to anybody. And maybe that's how it's supposed to be, actually, and we just don't know it. Maybe, our focus is supposed to be elsewhere and doing other things. And once I kind of accepted that, I really actually feel even a lot better. I mean, it's tough. I feel pretty lonely. I don't do a lot other than work and try to keep myself busy at work. I think going back to work, even though it was difficult, I'm glad I did. Obviously, my money was getting low and would have got lower, and then what am I going to do? But it was a good enough distraction for a little while. And also lets me kind of keep, a foot in with seeing what's going on everywhere too. It's not good to be isolated for too long. For a period of time, if you've got things you need to work through, or if you've got to meditate. But I know there's probably several of you who are kind of stuck in a position right now where maybe you're not working, or you're keeping yourself secluded because it's just too hard. And I totally gotcha. I mean, I had to go away for 5 months just because I really thought, I'm going crazy, don't know what's going on, don't know what this means for me. Why was it just me and my family? And then, like I said, when I started seeing all the other videos, then I knew there's something else. But then I've done a lot of research on, our place with the galactic, alignment, our galactic cycle, our galactic year happens every 255 million years, and where that ends up and where that puts us in the photon belt and for how long, and, what might happen. Just like you, or many of you, I know 24/7 you're filled with a lot of anxiety. So am I. I can't ever, not for a minute in any day, can't let it go. I mean, I can act like I don't get it, it doesn't matter, and I'm like getting better, whatever. It's there. It's there when I get up. It's there when I go to bed. I know something is coming, just like you. I'm trying to figure out what my role is here, just like you. I think we're slowly getting closer with all the people that are kind of posting their piece of the puzzle, giving their story. I really do think that helps, and I hope a lot more people will do that. It is there's a lot of reasons why I kind of go back and forth, which I'm sure you do too, on what the real story is. Is it the ascension and the energy that's coming out there that's causing these crazy sun things and causing the awakening? Is it still CERN with all the evidence that we can clearly see about CERN and its involvement, and it's mocking? If you haven't seen a lot of those videos, you need to go check them out. I mean, CERN, the media, just everybody, for the people that are in the know and are seeing these things, feeling these things, and know what the truth is, it is just unreal. So I know that the powers are still out there that are battling against each other for whatever this is. And then the other camp on the religious front. What worries me the most is yes, the Bible changes. They're there, and I know they're there. I was in church with my mother and my family, twice a week growing up, and she would read different verses, long ones, to us at bedtime every night, and we would memorize them. And there's just certain things that you don't forget. They're like your name. You don't forget your name. And I get that none of these people that this isn't happening to, I completely understand why. I do. If this hadn't happened to me, I wouldn't believe it. I'd be like, okay, well, I don't know if you're bored. I don't know if you're just suggestible. I don't know if I don't know what you're doing, but, I got better things to do, and that's crazy. If something were going around me, I thought I was pretty intelligent. I thought, I would be one of the ones that could see it. And if I'm not seeing it, then I don't know what y'all are doing, but it's a big psyop conspiracy. Or maybe, if they see some other things wrong, maybe they would think that this is the end of days time, and that all of us are just subject to this. I hear this all the time. Either getting attacked by the demons or suffering the biblical delusion. Now, all I can say on that is, I also remember reading about, in those days, about how many people in the masses, great masses of people, who were going to be walking across and down, the wide path, the well-worn path, of the blind people, traveled by many people. And very few are going to be on the narrow path. So if you, on one hand, if you're Christian and you believe that there's going to be the grand biblical delusion in the end days, and that the masses are going to fall under this delusion, well, you're the mass of people and we are the few. So I don't know if this is what it is, but I'm just saying, if it is, given how I feel, given what I've experienced, given what I know to be true for myself, then I would have to argue with you that we would be the few, the ones. Sorry, my camera just got full. I had to delete some stuff. So anyway, I'm not saying, that we're, right or you're right. If it's a religious end of days thing. I'm just saying we all need to have a little more compassion for each other and be a little more open-minded. We really aren't as intelligent as we think we are, and there's just so much stuff out there that we don't know, can't ever expect to know, aren't equipped to know, or whatever. There's just so much that's so far above us, and we can't really get upset with others. If we think we know what's going on, and we just get mad at people if they don't believe you or whatever. Regardless of what it is, we're really all in this together. We're all one people. I know a few people left some comments about the Indian guru that had come to me when this all started or whatever. And, don't listen to the music. Don't let them touch you. Since when did people just get so afraid of other people who don't, look like you or don't, I think if people would travel to some other countries more and get to know different cultures, a lot of this mistrust, misjudgment, even religiously, would go away. If you think about it, anybody in any religion who's, trying to be a good, Christian or Muslim or Sikh or John, or whatever they are, they honestly think they're doing their best to be their best representation of their religion. Even if things have become corrupted and polluted through manipulation by man and by cultures and by, changing facts and details, don't forget, it's not the people themselves that we should be attacking. It's whatever has been changed to kind of fragment everyone into creating all this strife. I know that everybody, has fear of this group or that group or hate for this group or that group. But I guess I don't. I do kind of see everybody as one group of people that just have been misled throughout history or historical forced change, in the details for whatever agenda, whatever culture or people had. I don't think any group of people are inherently bad. And if it's true what they said about, all the hybridization that's gone on for, the millions of years from different groups or entities in the cosmos, if you believe in that, then we're really more one than you even know. And, I think if you see what I've been seeing, especially the last couple years in the media and politically, where they're doing different things that are really trying to force different people against different people and race against race. And I don't understand why people don't see this. I just don't understand it because, I see it like anything. Anyway, I don't know what has happened and is continuing to happen. And I don't know how much of the detail for all of us is actually the same, because it might be the case. Me, for instance, the life I had before, I thought I knew who I was pretty good. And I thought at my core, I was a really good person. I might not have been perfect. I might have sinned. I might have made bad choices, but I still always thought, I'm a good person and I'm trying. I think I get what reality is, and I think I get, what it means to, try to be good and seek enlightenment and all that. But the strangest, part of this whole strange thing is when I came here or woke up or whatever you want to call it, I do remember on day one, even though I had no idea what was going on and what all these things that I was feeling are, even though I had no clue yet, and I've pieced together a lot by now, I do remember And I'll never forget, on day one, I was telling my husband, my family, I don't know what's going on. I don't know what's happened to me. All I know is there's a lot that's going to go bad and going to go wrong if we don't all start working together. And for myself personally, I cannot be around anything bad or impure or evil or tainted or nothing. My spirit felt so gleaming white, pure, so just clear, like the things that I just got and saw about reality and life and I don't know, just everything. I just felt, the really strong need to protect my spirit, and it was very offensive, to be around anything bad or impure or evil, even if it was just a off the hand comment that somebody would make, that just horribly offensive to my spirit, to my soul. And I knew it, even though I didn't know what was going on yet. That was a big thing for me. And I still feel that way, and that's caused, a lot of problems. And I have a feeling it's probably going forward going to cause a lot of problems. Especially, I don't want to be alone. Nobody wants to be alone. So I'm sure once I feel like I've got myself together good enough, I'll probably want to be in a relationship. And I just can't foresee, if I'm being honest, I kind of feel like too good and too pure. And like, I don't know if I'm going to be, fun enough again for anyone, because I'm like pretty serious about things now. And, different things interest me a lot. I mean, they interested me before, scientifically and, astrologically speaking, but, it has become the new me, the new life. And, I get offended at things that are, I guess, quote unquote, sinful now, or things. So I can't imagine that's going to go over too good if, typical guy's going to want, a sexy girl who's, you know how it is. And, I don't know. I don't even want to get into that with you. But anyway, a lot of the changes that are taking place that I don't understand how nobody sees, but they don't see, major things like the freaking whole North Pole, the whole Arctic continent, let's just say. There's an entire continent missing, and, people don't seem to notice, don't seem to care. I mean, that just blows my mind. What do you mean? You don't remember North America, South America, Arctic, Antarctic, Africa, Eurasia, Australia? What do you mean? We're missing a continent, and you're not even going to listen to me. You're just going to go watch the game and go, whatever. I'm so over it. I just, yeah. But the other changes, some people are experiencing, I didn't mention this in my original video either. One, I didn't want to look entirely crazier than I did. And, I knew the video was going to be seen by a lot of the people that were just coming in that wave or awakening that wave or whatever this is. But yeah, a lot of people have been asking about blood type changes. I will tell you, my blood type has changed. I went and got it tested, I guess about 2 months ago, maybe a month and a half ago, because with all this talk and this, just everything changing, my birthmark gone, and it wasn't a little thing. I mean, it was like a dime-sized 4-leaf clover. It was my lucky 4-leaf clover. And when people have been commenting on the videos about birthmarks, I'll ask them, Not that I know if it makes a difference, but, was it on the left side of your body or the right side of your body? Because typically throughout history, left is associated with bad. The letter S, left hand turn, sinister. Even in pharmacy, S, sinister, bad. When you see religious paintings, if you've ever noticed, and I made this observation on my own, when you see Jesus or the saints, or even in other cultures, their religious characters, all those who are saintly and righteous are usually with their right hand doing something. If you see pictures of Lucifer, usually in bad things, you'll see somebody using their left hand. And matter of fact, that's why Muslim people, you're not supposed to eat with your left hand. You're not supposed to do a lot of things with your left hand. But my birthmark was on my left side, and it's gone. And I've asked other people to tell me if they've posted that theirs is gone as well, and they're freaking out because they had one that matched their mother's or whatever. Yeah, it was on their left side. So I'm hoping, even though I don't know if it means anything, I'm hoping it's a good thing that it has disappeared, whatever mark we were born with on the left, and that we are here. And kind of, if that's another religious argument, if for this to be religious or something, it would be that those of us who are affected are seeing a new heaven in the skies, crazy skies, a new earth. You've seen all the animals that are here? You see all the new species of plants, animals? Freaking unreal. And nobody gets it. Just unreal. The one that blew my mind was the Nautilus shell that was extinct millions of years ago, had fossils of it. Remember I do meteorites? It's alive here. What the fuck? Excuse me. I just, wow. Yeah, wow. Just crazy things. So we got a new heaven, a new earth, and a new body. So that could be argued, as well as all the other things that are in the Bible could be argued, that this is, that time scenario, and that's what we are seeing playing out. But then again, if we look at CERN and their videos and publications that they've put out with their cartoons, it's clear evidence that they know about this and they're mocking us. So what do you do with that? If we look at ascension and, the photon belt, or even, the ages, in India, they use the yugas, and we're moving from one yuga to another, or in Western astrology, we would say we're moving from the age of Sagittarius to the age of Aquarius. That all makes sense too, so that fits in. So which one do you go with? And that is what the problem has been for me the entire time, is to decide for myself, which is it? Well, so then recently, I just finally, for the first time, started thinking of a way to maybe integrate these and tie all of these things together where they would conform, and you would still be able to ascribe any of these causes as part of a bigger picture, whatever this is. And that actually is possible. Now, I know that the Christian people would say, well, no, that's not possible because the word never changed, and, God said this and Jesus says and the Bible says this. Well, the Bible says a lot of things, and a lot of it is very allegorical. A lot of it is meant to portray different things or different meanings to different people, even at different times in your life. So I think it would be pretty foolish, honestly, for anyone to assume that they know what God's plans are more specifically than what is stated in the Bible. If the Bible clearly says, and he's going to come back someday, in all his glory, brighter light than whatever, well, that does not have to mean that it isn't as, the brown dwarf star and the planet coming through to burn and purify, or do whatever. I think it's just foolish for people to make statements on everybody's channels if you're not God yourself to know how his plan is going to be carried out, or what people he chooses to use for different functions or messages, then you don't know. I mean, there's numerous, mentions in the Bible, in the Quran, in other religious texts and things that I've read, where the Creator, it doesn't matter what his name is, because regardless of what his name is, he is still the Creator. So if we know that, okay, so let's say the Creator, whoever that is, and we know that he has used different people, even people of different religion, of different faith, a different culture, of different race, for purposes of helping others to see the light or the message, or to gain righteousness or whatever. So I get upset, I guess, when people get so narrow when it comes to religious things, because to me it can all be one and the same thing, because the Creator is the Creator. We know he's a creator of love and of goodness and of light. So just because one person would call him this and one person would call him this, I think that's all fabricated from men throughout history who have agendas to begin with. And I think we're doing ourselves a big disservice to fragment ourselves in groups any further than we've allowed people to do, period. So I think we're going to be seeing a lot more videos coming out shortly, as people put out their pieces and have more to say. And because I know every time I hear something, it'd be like, that gives me this idea, that gives me this idea. And I think we will slowly be able to put together everything. I'm thinking about trying to do something, well, I'll probably tell you about that on my next video. But I know that there's a lot of you out there that are really hurting in this life, or this body, or this state, and a ton of people that are just experiencing what I did a few years back, with just the unbelievable, overwhelming, incredible fatigue and no energy, and health issues. All I can say, because I don't have the answers, but I made it through it. I feel really good. I just got a bike again the other day. I'm going to start biking again, something I thought I would never, ever, ever do again, because I literally thought I was going to die, and was trying to make last, details and thoughts in my mind. But I'm still short of breath, kind of occasionally. But given that our lungs are smaller and stuffed up there, because our liver's so damn big now, I can see why. But I'm trying to get some compensatory mechanisms in there, so I can get better respiration and all that. But I know you're tired. I know it's hard. All I can say is listen to your body. If you need rest frequently, that's fine. Rest when your body tells you need to rest. And I think, you'll eventually come out of this and, adjust and whatever, to whatever this is. The changes to the human body are real. Don't think it's in your head. In addition to my blood type, my ABO group, not my RH factor, but my ABO group changing, and some other things. I know that when I was undergoing all the tests, trying to find what was going on, when I was at the doctor and I got done, I was going back in for the results of my, I had some dye scans done, CT scans done, pretty much from, chest to lower abdomen. And they've now, tell me that one of my kidneys is malrotated, which, I've had sonograms done before, when I thought I had food poisoning or whatever, yeah, there was nothing there. No, it wasn't. And looking at this, and to the degree it was, yeah, it's like I've been twisted through a freaking timeline. And not only that, but as I was leaving the doctor's office, he said, well, you know, have you ever been told, says, looks like you have a little bit of barrel chest? And, you know, I know what that is because we have to counsel people with asthma and COPD on breathing techniques and stuff. And I know for a fact, with past x-rays and things that I've had, I don't have freaking barrel chest. And so he's like, well, yeah, you know, it was noted on the CT. I'm like, you know, let me see that scan. And at first, I thought the reason for him telling me that was because, you know, he's like, well, let me see, let me check. And I thought it was just, okay, another guy wants to get a look, and this is what it's going to be about again. But then I looked at the CT scan, and there was like a little bit. And I thought that was the craziest thing. You know, because that, you're pretty much either born with that, or you develop it from your, you know, your intercostal muscles and accessory muscles trying to compensate for breathing and exhaling if you have respiratory issues. So I knew I didn't have that. But yeah, just crazy, crazy stuff. Anyway, I'm going to be putting out the other study videos hopefully shortly again. I really collected a ton of information. A lot of it I think you're going to be pretty interested to hear and see, but just be patient with me, because again, I'm trying to do a lot of other things in hopes of being normal. I just want to be normal, and I just can't. And no, it's not that I'm letting this run my life, control my life, dictate my life, and it's my own fault, whatever. If you haven't had this happen to you, and you're on a freaking new planet, and you got no more family members, you can't go home, you know what, this is pretty much going to dictate your life. So I don't feel bad in the least about spending time, you know, looking at things, researching things. You know, I think ultimately and eventually, you know, things will normalize out as best they can, and I'll figure out what my new life is and get that going. And I'm trying to be a lot more patient with myself than I guess I used to be. I was pretty demanding of myself, to say the least. Anyway, I guess that's all I have to say for now. Again, thank you so much for the really, really kind comments, and thank you especially for being willing to share your own experiences on my channel, your video comments, posted comments with others. You just don't know how much that helps other people. It really does, and we'll get it. So anyway, I hope everybody has a good night. Good to talk to you again. I'll talk to you soon. Bye.